Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining in today. My name is Shashank, and I work as a QlikView consultant for Prima Consulting. I have over 6 years of experience working in complex data warehousing and business intelligence projects, and I have been doing QlikView development for more than a year now. Today, I will be taking you through some of the QlikView tips and tricks. We will start with some simple tips for end users, and then we'll move on to some more complicated tips for developers and designers, which they can use in their everyday QlikView applications. Okay, so about Prima Consulting. Prima Consulting has operations in Australia. We were established in 1991. We have our head office in Melbourne, offices in Sydney, Brisbane, and Perth. We have QlikView certified consultants and Microsoft certified consultants. Prima's core services and experience is in information management and business intelligence, project management, business analysis, IT consultancy services, IT support and training. We are Microsoft Gold partners and we are also Qlik certified partners. Okay, so these are the clients that we have worked for and that we've been working for now. So I'll be taking you through some really good tips and tricks. We'll start with some tips which are for the end users, such as fuzzy search, search list object based on another field, maybe set reference property. And then we'll discuss some of the properties about around moving objects in your dashboard, copy pasting some objects. Then we'll discuss some colors and some advanced color properties. And then we'll talk about some formatting and different ways to format your tables. So we can get started. I'll just open a QlikView instance. So I have with me an example QlikView dashboard, which comes by default with QlikView. It's called Retail Store Performance. So the first tip that I wanted to share with is fuzzy search. A lot of end users, they are not aware of this functionality in QlikView, and it is a really good way to do your search. Like if I am looking at the district manager list box in here, and say I want to search for my first maybe Aaron Freeman, and if I type in ARON, it would give me no results. So what I can do is maybe I can add this tilted sign, and even if my spelling is wrong here, so it would give me all the related names according to my spelling. So I can maybe select Aaron Freeman, and then I can make my search. So this could be used in any of your list boxes to make your search. If I say tilted and then I say 1000, so it will give me all the results which are very close to 1000. Next one I have is search list box based on another field. This is again a very handy tip for the end users. Say I want to select a store, or maybe say I want to select a district manager based on store 10009. So what I'll do is I'll search 10009 in here, and then I can press this arrow button here. So what QlikView does is it gives me all the fields which have 1009009 as a field name. So I see this store field here. I select 1009. So basically QlikView has not selected one, like it's not selected the store 1009, but it has just highlighted the district manager name for me. So what I'll do is I'll select the district manager name here, and then my charts would selection is made, and then my charts reflect that selection. So this is another useful tip for the end users to make a search. Next one I have is set reference property. Okay, say if I am looking at this particular chart, and if I am say looking at data for 2014 and I want to compare it with the data for 2015, so QlikView has a really good feature in here which is set reference. I can select 2014 and then set this as a reference, and when I go to 2015 it would give me a comparison of both 2014 and 2015 charts, which is really good to make a comparison. Like it gives you a year over year comparison, and similarly you can do it for, like, if you want to do it for a particular month and compare it with another month. So this is another useful feature as well. So I'll clear the reference, deselect 2015. Okay, so next one I have is move text and objects within a chart. Again, like this is a useful tip for the developers. When they get started, they don't actually know this is if it's possible to do this or not. So what I can do is I can press Control Shift. Just give me a sec. Yep. And then I can just move my chart around and also my legend around. So I can format, like I can change the size of my charts. I can maybe change the size of my legend as well. And I can also move around the various elements inside this particular chart. So if I want to dock it on the top, I can dock it on the top as well. So you can play around with, how to make a chart look beautiful and nice. So you can play around with this. And if you want to reset it to default, so I go to properties of this chart and go to the general tab. So I have these two properties in here, which is reset user sizing and reset user docking. So what reset user sizing does is it would reset the sizing of the chart. So all your charts now appear in the default format. And what reset user docking does is it would place all my legends and other chart elements to the default area where it was by default. So it's really easy and convenient if you really want to change the look and feel of a chart. Like sometimes it is like maybe if I can go to some other chart and see if I have something else to show you. Yeah, maybe in like this chart as well. Like say if you wanted your chart to be a little less shorter and your legend to be a bit bigger, so you can always play around with this. Next one I have is control and drag and drop to copy a chart. Okay, so first way to copy a chart is to right click on a chart, copy to clipboard, and then you say copy it as an object. But there's a really good shortcut for this as well. You press control and then you can just drag. And you can just drag it around. Working for me. I can try for something else. Maybe I can try it for a particular list box. I press control and then I can just copy it very easily. We can also copy paste various charts or list boxes or whatever we have across various dashboards as well. Say I want to have this in my newly created dashboard, so I can copy it to clipboard to object, and then if I have a new QlikView dashboard, I can just go to paste sheet object, and here I have my similar list box. But since this is a new dashboard, we don't have any underlying data in here, so I don't see any rows in here. So I will just go back to my previous dashboard. So one, like, how this is useful is, suppose if I'm looking at a particular chart, maybe this one, and I don't actually know how to create it, so I can just copy paste it and put it in my dashboard. Say if I just paste it here, and then I can just play around with its properties. I can change the dimensions to whatever my dimensions are. I can change the expression, and it just gives me a very similar looking chart in my own dashboard. Okay, so next one I have is dragging an object into the next sheet. Say if I create a new sheet in add sheet, I'm creating this new sheet. I want to have this region field in my new sheet. I can just drag it to my sheet 7, and here we go. Like, we have the region in our new sheet now. So it's easy, really easy to drag and drop objects within various sheets. And if, say, I wanted to create a copy of this, I can press Control and I can just drag it to my customer satisfaction sheet. And when I go there, I have a copy in here. So these tips are really useful when you are creating a dashboard, and usually what we do is like we right click and then copy paste, so you can just drag and drop and move around your elements within your various sheets. Okay, next I have is linked objects. I can probably remove this one first. So what link object means is, like, I can copy to clipboard object, go to sheet 7 and paste sheet object as a link. So what it does is, basically, all the settings that I have in my default list box or in maybe any chart that I'm copy pasting, it would apply all the settings to, or all the properties to, my newly created list box as well. So say if I change my font size in here, I go to font, I change it to 11, I'll notice that this list box also has the font size 11. So this is really useful when you have to set like particular font or maybe particular layout or a style for any list boxes or maybe charts. So if I want to add some borders in here, like I want all my list boxes to have borders, so maybe I can go to properties, go to layout, add intense border, give it 1 point width and apply. So it's really easy to do this, to have it as a link. And another thing with link objects is, if I just move around my object here, so it does not link the X and Y axes, your width and your length of the chart, but there is another setting by default which says link objects and adjust position of linked objects. So if I turn this on, now it would reflect the position of the list box as well. I'll just take this back and unlink this object and maybe remove it as well. Okay, next I have is select multiple objects. So one really easy way to select multiple objects is, you can just hover over your multiple objects and right click, go to properties. And how this is useful is, you can set maybe font for each of them as a single font, and all of these gets reflected in all of these list boxes. Maybe add borders, so you have these three tabs which you can play around with if you want to add, or if you want to change the layout or the font size, or change the font as well, so you can do that very easily. Okay, next I have is default formatting for a field. Maybe say if I am looking at this particular one, and say I'm looking at store type, and I want this to, like, all my store types to appear at the center. So I can click on this and set my properties to appear on the center. But another convenient way to do is to go to settings, go to document properties, and then we have presentation, and say if I'm looking at store type field, there we go, and I can apply the properties. Maybe if I can say if I want this particular field to always appear on the right, I can say apply, and now anytime I create this new sheet object, say list box, it would always appear on the right. So the settings which I changed in my sheet properties or in my document properties, that would not reflect in my list boxes that I already had, but anytime I create a new list box now, it would always show the store type fields on the right. So this is another good way to visualize the things, like if you have maybe, like, if you're looking at sales data and you want to add a dollar symbol in front of your sales figures, so you can always set your default settings for that particular sales field. Go to settings, document properties, and then go to presentation, select the sales or whatever field that you have, and then you can just play around with that. Maybe go to layout and maybe go to number, select that particular sales field, and then say it has to be money, and then you can select dollar, and just format your field in the way that is your requirement is. Okay, next I have is copy paste colors. A lot of people, when they start working on QlikView, they don't realize that it's really easy to copy paste colors. I can just go to my colors tab, and I can just right click on any color and copy it. And suppose if I want my, maybe say if I want my first color to be purple, I can just copy it from here and then paste it in here, and it's really easy to copy colors. And we have other properties as well, like we can paste the base color, paste the second color as well. So what that means is, say if I'm looking at this particular color, we have multiple color gradients as well. Say if we have two color gradients, one is purple and then we have black as the another gradient, so I can copy the first base color or maybe the second color as well, and I can just easily paste it in. Another property that I wanted to discuss with colors is this advanced tab in here, which a lot of people never use. So QlikView gives you the functionality to add default colors. You have your sheet defaults, we have document default, we have user default, and we also have QlikView default. So maybe at first I can just have QlikView defaults in here, and say if I, as a user, I have this particular color scheme which I want to use in my particular dashboard. This is my company norm to use first color as purple, second color as pink, and maybe third color as blue. So what I can do is I can update this as my user default, and say if I am working on some other chart, maybe this one, I go to properties, go to the colors tab, advanced, and I want to change my color scheme to what my user default is. So I can just retrieve my user default in here, and I can see, my colors have been updated, and I can easily apply that to my charts and dashboards. So this is again really useful to save your user defaults and your maybe document defaults as well if you're working on some particular color scheme. And one really useful tip about colors is to not use more than three different colors. Like if maybe in the chart like this, I have a requirement to use multiple colors, then probably it makes sense. But if you are working on a dashboard, I would recommend to use not more than three colors. And if it's required, then maybe you can use different shades of the same color. But it's always good to keep as you know keep as minimum colors as possible in your reports. Next I have is copy paste expressions. This again, like when I started working on QlikView, I wasn't aware of this. It's really easy to copy paste expressions as well. I can simply copy this in my expressions and then just paste it. It's as simple as that. Usually what users do is, like, they would add add expression and then type in the particular expression, and then it takes a lot of time to do that if you have multiple expressions in your chart. So it's really easy to copy paste expressions as well. Okay, next I have is change dimension without losing formatting in a chart. This is really useful and handy as well. If I'm looking at my dimensions in a chart, say I want to not have region, and maybe I want to visualize by maybe country. Yeah, so whenever I when I have to change my dimension, I have to remove it from here and then probably add my own dimension in here. But one really easy way to change your dimensions, if you don't want to lose your properties, like other properties, like say if in this particular chart that I was working on, I had set some dimension limits, or maybe I'd set some particular presentation properties which I wanted to make sure that when I change my dimension, it stays with me. So one good way to change your dimension is to go to this edit button, and rather than removing it from your dimension, I can just delete it from here and then add my new dimension. Say I want to add country, paste it, and remove this one. So all my properties would remain intact, like what I said in my previous chart. Okay, next one I have is show all sheets and objects. This is again very useful, which a lot of people are not aware of. If I go to my layout tab, I can conditionally show and hide my chart. Say if I want I can type in my particular formula or my function to conditionally hide it, or say if by mistake I just set it to hide it by default, and that was a mistake which I made, and I just lose the chart. So I don't have any other way to recover it. But sometimes, if something like this happens, so one good way to retrieve this is to go to document properties and then go to security, and then we have this small list box here which says show all objects and sheets, and then it gives me back the chart that I have, and then I can go to the chart properties and change my condition to, and to make the correction. So now I would just make it show always. Okay, I have a few more tips and tricks which I wanted to share with you, but I guess we are running out of time. Thank you everyone for joining us today. Hopefully you found these tips and tricks interesting and useful, and maybe you've learned something new things today. And I'm gonna pass this on to Rebecca now. If she has something to talk about, or then maybe you can take some questions. Rebecca, are you there?
Yes,
Okay.
Yes, I'm here, Sushank. So question number one, would it be possible to copy paste expression from one application to another? That's asked by Ben. Thank you very much.
Yes, Rebecca, that is very much possible. It's possible to copy paste expressions within various different dashboards as well. I can maybe like demonstrate that, but it's very easy. Like you can always copy paste expressions within dashboards just like you do it in the same dashboard.
That's awesome. Yeah, I did see that you tried to copy paste expression from in the same dashboard right just now. So yeah, that's a good one to know. And question number two, asked by John, is it good practice to set default formatting for all the fields?
Uh, I would not set default formatting for all the fields, but like as I mentioned earlier, like suppose if we have a sales field and we want it to like show the dollar sign always, so fields like that, or maybe something like if you have some particular requirement where you want to show maybe region on the right of the list box or maybe on the center of the list box, then I would say like I would set the default settings for that particular fields, but I wouldn't do that for all the fields.
That makes a lot of sense. Okay, again, if you have any questions, please type into the question box on the right side. If we don't receive any questions in the next 5 seconds, we will be ending the webinar today. And thank you very much for your participation today. Yep, it looks like we don't have any other questions. That's awesome. So we will be ending the webinar today. Thank you very much again for joining, and hope to see you next month for the next webinar.